This is Dungeons and Dragons, by the way. Hasbro.
To say that there is no racism in the world, but teaching children to judge others based upon race is not going to make a world with less racism, it's going to make a world with more of it. This isn't something I wanted to do, this is something I felt I had to do. This is a hill worth dying on. If I can make one person just
Wait, did I get that wrong? Am I freaking high? Yes. Fuck. I don't know why I second guessed myself. I'm like, wait, I know this. Wait a minute.
away from this ideology and say, you know what, maybe that's not the way.
Wizards of the Coast is owned by Hasbro.
Not the path towards a better future, then I think it's worth it. This isn't something I wanted to do. This is something I felt I had.
But yeah,
to
like
do.
O'Keefe does a lot of these kind of like things where he does investigative journalism of like different companies, like trying to like find out like corruption and stuff like that.
This is a hill worth dying
Oh, you're a game
on.
designer? Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, tell me your name and what you
But
do.
yeah,
for a
Dungeons
living.
and Dragons.
The name is
Dungeons and Dragons, owned by Hasbro, pushing DEI stuff.
David Johnson. I'm a packaging engineer for Hasbro currently.
I have an alternative, guys. Did you guys know that? If you want a game that isn't leftist DEI fueled, rpg.angelsword.com, free RPG.
And why did you decide to come to Project Veritas?
I decided to come to Project Veritas because I opposed the indoctrination of children that they wanted to push. And I felt that more people needed to know about it.
How are they indoctrinating children?
They are attempting to covertly push CRT, critical race theory, through branding and messaging through their products.
Explain what we're looking at here.
This is the program developed by the Conscious Kid, which is working with Hasbro. I'm not sure exactly to what extent, but this is their
New
program
patch coming
to
out soon.
teach children about, well, teach is a strong word, but they want to introduce children into racial bias at an early age before they're really able to understand.
Is this a mandatory all-hands training?
Yes, this meeting was attended by, well, you can see at least 44 people. I remember it being more on my screen, but it was mandatory for me.
How much do you know about this nonprofit which developed the training on this? This is the Conscious Kid. Tell us about that.
This was actually the first time I'd heard of them was this meeting. Following it, I did a bit of research. I know they work with a few other very, very large corporations, like I believe they work with Google, the NFL, Nickelodeon, who's also a big partner with Hasbro.
No, Hasbro isn't the...
So it says, I've never played TTRPGs before. Any good advice for beginners? Your experience is going to vary depending on your team, on your group, and your DM. Make sure you tell the DM up front that you've never played before and that you'd like help. Otherwise, you're just going to struggle, I think.
Only heavy hitter, are
No.
they? As you mentioned, they work with the NFL Players Association, MGM, Nickelodeon, and
YouTube.
And YouTube.
That's a large share of like the market for children's entertainment. Like Hasbro itself is already a huge company because they have like everything from My Little Pony to Transformers.
So this guy's like a whistleblower? Like he just came out and just
but
leaked all the
YouTube-
shit, basically?
YouTube is almost like the main hub where people go for entertainment now. If they're using YouTube to push this ideology, then that's going to have very, very far reach and very wide implications.
You sent this tape to us the same day that you recorded it, correct?
Yes.
Why was it so important to you to get this tape to us immediately?
Mostly, originally, it was actually just out of shock. I couldn't really believe what I was hearing in the meeting. It was just so overtly...
3 years ago, Sander.
This word gets overused, but it was overtly racist and very, very discriminatory. And the first thing that I thought of was just like, I have to tell people about this, just because of how big the company is. And this was...
Dude, how freaking mad do you think these companies get when it's specifically a black person that's telling them that they're being racist? It's like their worst nightmare.
Before I knew the Conscious Kid had other connections, but just Hasbro by itself was just massive enough that I'm like, people need to know this is being pushed onto their children.
And have you ever done this before, like blown the whistle, recorded, and published?
Never.
But it occurred to you instantly to do it.
Yes.
Had you seen what we had done previously or known about whistleblowers?
I've known about Project Veritas for a little while, and I've seen some of your previous whistleblowers, and I've always thought it was just amazing that people would step forward and just risk everything to just get a message across. Didn't ever think I would be one of those people, but here I am.
Here you are. What moment troubled you most from this training?
It's so unnecessarily divisive, and it's assigning blame to an entire group of people based on their skin color and not by their actions or by what they choose to believe.
Let's take a look at the tape of the training.
I think we should.
Recorded.
By 3 to 6 months, babies are beginning to notice and already express preference by race. There was research that looked at how by 6 months, infants living in a homogeneous or same race neighborhood showed preferences for faces from their own racial groups, whereas infants living in more racially diverse environments did not show that same preference for their own racial group. And this is really important because we see that early exposure to different races is
You heard it here, folks. Racist 6-month-old babies. Confirmed. Literally Hitler. Those 6-month-old apartheid ass motherfuckers.
is impacting these preferences before babies are even 1 year old. Children as young as 2 are already using race to reason about people's behaviors, and we may see this play out in daycare or on the playground and how kids are starting to choose or exclude playmates and friends.
Wow. By 2 years old, quote, already using race to reason about people's behavior, and they exclude kids on playgrounds.
Yeah.
Shocking.
2-year-old racists is just an absurd concept. I don't think at 2 years old, most of them know how to read or write. Many of them may, well, I would hope they know the alphabet by 2, but I think it's absurd to just state as fact that at
Thanks to the bits, Space Cowboy. Most of the companies don't care. George Soros and BlackRock are floating the bill.
2 years old, the children are going to be racist and using race to reason about who they're going to play with and discriminating based on.
Conscious Kid, which is the contractor that Hasbro works with.
Yes.
And does this. Is this mandatory training?
This one was, and from...
You guys ever think that, like, okay, say you were like a follower of the devil, like actually, wouldn't this be like the best way to get like, you know what I mean? Like going out like overtly and like trying to kill people. I think like your reach would be like pretty limited, but like actually like getting people to like hate each other, that would be like how you would do it. You know what I mean? So it's like my conspiracy theory is that like what if these people know exactly what they're doing and it's on purpose? They're like, how do we fuck people up as much as possible and make them hate each other? Like they're just like an agent of chaos, just fucking like some freaking like summoning Cthulhu ass motherfuckers, you know what I mean?
The way they described it, this is at least the second training that they have done.
In the moment you watched this, what was going through your head?
My jaw hit the floor, and I
recommend listening to Paul Harvey's radio speech, If I Were the Devil, and Man's Prophetic. I mean, that's what I would do. You would want to do it in a way that you play the long game, right? You wouldn't go for something immediate.
I've seen critical race theory and all the other...
Like in terms of like causing like global suffering and global chaos, like doing a murder or two is like kind of light, you know? Like the reach is not that big. And like obviously like the immediate impact on the people like tangential to like that issue, they would be affected. But this is a way you could affect like millions of people.
Terms that this goes by, I've seen this ideology a lot over like the past 7 years, is just to have it so in my face at my place of work was just astounding to me.
3 to 6 months old.
3 to 6 months, and I believe they state by like by age 3 or by age 6 is when children start to express overt racial biases against people of color.
By age 3, children are already starting to apply stereotypes, and research shows that they also may use racist language intentionally at this age. And white children at this age may report explicit or overt negative attitudes towards people of color. So already by age 3, this can happen. By age 4, kids are showing a strong and consistent pro-white, anti-black bias. And at this age, it is seen in the research really significantly against black boys, but this anti-black bias occurs across gender at this age. At the age of 5, children show...
I don't know what they're talking about. Anti-black bias. This doesn't make any sense. Listen, when I was a kid, and I think I speak for basically every kid at my school, I thought they were OP. Because they were so good at basketball. I mean, you could hate me for that, but that was the truth. They were really good at basketball.
The same racial attitudes
I'm just saying.
By adults. By this age, children are really also sensitive to the status.
You wanted them on your team.
Different racial groups in our society and show a high status bias towards white people, which is the socially privileged group in our society.
Where's the lie? Where's the lie?
White children show pro-white bias at this age, and it's really important to note also that Black and Latinx children do not...
Kids didn't hate black people. They wanted them on their team.
...not show the same in-group preference for their own racial groups at this age.
This is just absolutely absurd to just state categorically that at 5 years old, your children are as racist as the adults, which is implied.
I'm not gonna lie. Being like short, I wasn't very good at basketball, I wasn't like one of those like Yao Ming Asians, wasn't very good.
Implying that the parents are also racist in some manner. I just think it's absurd. I don't know how they don't see it as discriminatory to group an entire race of people, like how they explain that the white children in particular have the particular bias against black people. And it's like children develop things based on what they're taught. And if they're going to be teaching this to children, then yes, you're going to have more children with a racial mindset because you're teaching children to have a racial mindset. And when I was growing up as a child, I had a mixed race group of friends, and
But you want to know what I did get picked for? Who you think they asked when they need help with math homework? I'm just telling the truth. I'm just telling the truth.
This never came up. Children don't naturally.
You could hate me for it, but I'm just telling you that's how it was when we were kids. Okay, I'm telling you the truth of children. That's how it was like. That's how it was. I remember.
Just look at each other based on their race, unless they're taught it. And these people are teaching children.
Was I good at it though? Fuck no. Fuck no. No, I was in AP math, but I wasn't that good, to be honest. Like I don't know. I wasn't that good. I was more of like a history person, I like history.
Through Hasbro.
Yeah, they want to use Hasbro to push more of this ideology. And this isn't happening in just a vacuum, but it is happening at Hasbro.
Is this what people are talking about regarding critical race theory? Is this an element of that?
This is critical race theory in practice. What they're doing is they're taking the applied version of their ideology and using that to covertly push their messages on children. So instead of
generalizing your experience to the general population isn't fair, though. I also don't think that generalizing 6-month-old babies is racist is fair either. That's kind of my point.
Reading from a book about critical race theory, you'll ask a question just like, well, why do
my point is that this isn't always the case. So that was the point.
People hate black people. Like that's not a direct quote from a book, but you're pushing the ideology more covertly.
Covertly. We've heard about overtly. We've heard about schools.
Obviously, there are places where people are racist, and obviously there does exist racist people. I don't know about 6-month-old kids being racist and 2-year-old kids being racist. I don't know about that, but there definitely are people that are adults that are racist. Yeah.
think we've heard about toys yet.
You can see it, there's parents rising up around, I'd say the country, but actually just the entire Western world, because of how far critical race theory has just spread throughout our institutions. And parents really need to pay attention to this. It uses a Marxist lens to look at people as oppressed and oppressors. And then in critical race theory specifically, it divides people who have whiteness as the oppressor and people who lack it as the oppressed. And no matter what, you are split between those two groups. So it's inherently divisive.
There's a pretty definitive conclusion they've come up with. You say this type of labeling can be weaponized against all races.
Oh, for sure.
Not just black people.
So when they say whiteness, generally they do just want to refer to white people, but they will also extend that to anyone who speaks out against critical race theory. You'll often hear that you have implicit whiteness, or you are defending it, or they've called people race traitors, but
Race traitors.
you get some pretty bad slurs if you speak up against this.
That's actually pretty racist, actually, to be like, oh, you to actually call a person a race traitor because they don't agree. That's actually kind of racist.
I've been called a coon. I've been called some nasty things.
By whom?
By the tolerant people.
Just by random people that I've spoken to about these issues, and I'm trying to explain to them why teaching people to segregate based on race or by gender or by any other inherent characteristic is wrong. But just to go against the orthodoxy, some people just react to it so negatively.
This is just in your life.
Yeah, this is just in my life.
Just in your life in the past.
I mean, it's usually the case. Like a lot of the times, the people that that scream about racism the most are actually the most racist, and then the people that scream about sexism the most are actually the most sexist. It just keeps happening.
Spoken up about this personally. So what do you think your detractors are going to say after you go public?
Guys, if you're looking for another person that does commentary streams, Amalgamite does them. So please check them out.
With this information?
Gotta
I think
support
I'll end up
support
becoming
the
a black white supremacist. I think that'll be the label. But if not that, then just
gotta support the I don't want to say the cause, but like people that cover this kind of stuff, because it can get pretty rough out there. People get kind of crazy, honestly.
general. I might be called far right. I might be labeled some other slur. I don't care. People need to know about this.
What's your reaction to them calling you a quote black white supremacist or a quote race traitor, as you said?
Oh, I just laugh. I think it's really funny when people
didn't they call Larry Elder that? They called him the black face of white supremacy.
who claim to be on the
Like, imagine like how racist that is, dude. Like it's like a black dude who's running for governor, and they literally call and he's running against a white dude, and they call him the black face of white supremacy. That's fucking amazing. Like, if you think
side
about
of
that.
progress and tolerance go around telling people
It's
what they
actually
have
amazing.
to and can't believe based on their race or their gender or whatever.
What is their end goal?
I don't think Hasbro has an end goal with this. Honestly, this was the only meeting where this came up. However, I think the end goal for the conscious kid is to make sure that Hasbro is going to use their lens, and Hasbro is going to push their principles through all levels of their product, marketing, packaging, what have you.
We also see a lot of invisibility in products and media, and especially in children's products and media when it comes to communities of color. This also has an impact in communicating whose lives and stories are worthy of being represented and celebrated. Regarding product content and anti-Blackness, a large portion of media thanks for
the bits, Hollow. Thank you.
Or products are
As Hasbro, Hasbro owners of Wizards of the Coast possibly spread the wokeness from Hasbro to Wizards of the Coast. Yeah.
Or perpetuates anti-Blackness, and research shows that negative or deficient depictions of Blackness in media and products perpetuates this anti-Blackness as well as aversive racial attitudes toward Black people. And
Wait.
beyond anti-Black depiction or perpetuates anti-Blackness. And research shows that negatives
Hold on.
are centered around or perpetuates
What? Hold on.
anti-Blackness, whose lives and stories are worthy of being represented and celebrated. Regarding product content and anti-Blackness, a large portion of media or products are centered around.
What does that mean? A large portion of product content is centered around anti-Blackness. Research shows that negative, deficient depictions of Blackness in product content. What does that mean? What does Blackness even mean? Isn't that kind of racist? Like what do they mean by Blackness? Like, what are they trying to say? Beyond attitudes, this impacts interactions with Black people. For both youth and adults, stereotypes in
or perpetuates anti-Blackness, and research
for both youth and adults, stereotypes in the product content reinforce. What is this? She tried to get the biggest. Wait, hold on. So she tried to get the biggest eraser she could find and tried to rub off a layer or two of her darkness. What the fuck? Well, I mean, okay, guys, this is so easy to solve. You see a 2-year-old kid. Say there's a 2-year-old kid that's Black, and they have an entire class, like whatever the class size is, 28. What is the class size now? I don't fucking know. Let's just say they have a whole class, like like 95% of the people, they're the only Black kid in the class. Everyone else is white. They might be confused, right? You're just confused. Like, wait, why does everybody look like that and I don't? Like, maybe I have to erase it off. And then you just tell the kid, like, yo, fucking knock it off. And then you try to explain it to them. Like, fucking duh. Just like, some parenting help, maybe the teacher can step in and like explain it. Like, dude, that's what it's for. Like,
shows that negative or deficient depictions of Blackness in media and products perpetuates this anti-Blackness as well as aversive racial attitudes toward Black people. And beyond attitudes, this can have an actual impact on interactions with Black people. And for both kids and adults, stereotypes in the product and content can
I'm not gonna lie, I would love to talk to one of these people and just have them answer my questions. I would love to interview these people and just ask them, like, what are you even talking about? Like, I just want to know. I want to know what they're talking about. I feel like they're just gonna word salad me though.
Dangerous hostility and resentment towards marginalized community, and also exacerbate a lack of empathy, which is known as the racial empathy gap.
What is the lack of empathy? What the fuck?
With Blackness.
The irony here is, like, I can tell you, if there's an empathy gap with a certain race of individuals, I can tell you for a fact that's not Black.
Yeah, I guess the point
If it does exist, it's not.
Trying to make there is that you will see less, I guess, dolls or toys specifically for people with darker skin, which...
Yeah, okay, so this is how it works. Okay, guys, let me just explain it. When you're making a toy, it costs money to make a toy. You have to figure out what the toy is going to look like. You send it to the, manufacturer. They create the model of the toy. You get the sample. I know about this because I have merch, right? So you get one, and then you basically have to order thousands of them, right? And when you order thousands of them, you think about, well, what are the demographics, right? What are the demographics of the kids, right? And if you're in a predominantly I wonder. Here's a question. Actually, I don't know. Do they? Actually, I don't know. I was gonna say, like, do they make white toys in Africa? I wonder if they do. Yeah, it doesn't make sense because, again, like, if you have, like, like, what's the? Hold on, wait. Let me look. What is the racial demographic of the United States? 13 to 14% Black. Now you have to consider, like, profit margins, right? When you have to manufacture, like, so many of a doll. And of course, this is going to be different depending on how much money your organization has. But, like, you would only be marketing, like, a Black doll to, like, again, 13 to 14% of kids, right? Well, this is as of 2025, apparently. And you know, back in the day, it probably would have been like much worse, right? It depends on the region of the United States. Yeah, but the thing is these you know, like Hasbro would be a national company, right? They would produce stuff and they would distribute stuff throughout the United States. So you would have to take the total demographic, right? Making like a doll with multiple races is a lot harder in terms of like it's harder to make money when you're doing that, because again, you're gonna buy less of the black dolls because there's less black people, right? So you would probably sell less of them, which would mean that you would either have to, I mean, what's the case here? You would have to literally subsidize those dolls because they're going to be more expensive, because you would have to produce the black dolls, right? And you would produce less of them, which would mean that the per unit cost would be higher. So you would either have to make them more expensive, which people would find incredibly offensive, right? Like, because people would find that offensive, right? If you made them more expensive, or you would have to subsidize them, as in like take a loss on those ones and then just try to recoup the costs on the you know, the white dolls. So it's just when you live in a predominantly you know you live in a society that's predominantly like one like predominantly one race, one culture, you're going to have most of the things being catered towards that specific ethnic group. And the thing is like, I mean, if you go to Japan, I can tell you this, if you go to Japan, you're not going to see any black Barbie dolls or anything like that. You think you're going to in Japan? I haven't seen a single one. I go to toy stores in Japan because every time I go to Japan, I go to the toy store to buy Pretty Cure stuff. I've never seen a single one. And it's just an economic thing. It's not a race. It's not a racism thing. And they try to make this like a racism thing when it's literally just economics. Was Cure Soleil DAI? I don't think so, because I actually like how it was done. That's true. There was actually there was a Mexican doll. All right, guys, there was a Mexican doll. Actually, I think I have it. Yeah, I might have it actually.
Might be true.
My bad.
But again,
but she was a really good character, honestly. Like I liked her. The only thing, my only gripe, guys, I talked about this before. My main gripe about her is her entire character arc was how she felt out of place because she was, and you know, I think that's definitely a thing, right? Like I'm not so retarded as to say that like people that grow up as a minority in a majority country, like obviously they're gonna feel a little bit out of place because like you feel you're different, right? You feel a little bit different, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're just gonna feel a little bit different, and her whole plot was how she did feel different because she was, you know, I think she was like half Mexican or something, and she did feel different because her family was different, right? Like her, I think it was like her dad was her dad. Was it her dad or was it her mom? I think it was her dad that was Mexican, but she felt different, just how like you know, the culture was a little bit different like in her family, and she felt a little off. And I thought that was really a really sweet, really nice like character arc. But there was a problem. And the problem was, in that season of Pretty Cure, there were 2 literal fucking aliens from outer space on their team. So she's there like saying like, oh, I feel so out of place because I'm Mexican in Japan. And there's 2 fucking aliens from like a different planet on their team. It's like they just undercutted like her entire fucking character arc with literal aliens. It was like, what the fuck?
We're not supposed to be a society where the black people only play with the black toys and the white people only play with the white toys. And to me, that's not progress, it's regress. It's a regress of the civil rights era and the progress that was made there.
How can creators either reinforce or disrupt biases through product? Well, products.
Yeah, man. Like, what about they had like anime dolls? Like when I was a kid, they had anime dolls. Like they had Card Captor Sakura dolls and stuff. Those were only Asian. How about that for all the white people?
of three things, or all three things. They can send efficient or affirming messages about societal structures and narratives. Product
They
can
can't make
also
up their mind with the propaganda. Diversity is great. We're all different, but we need to get rid of diversity and become the same. I think honestly the best way I like, this is just my take, is I think that the best way to I think when it comes to toys that are more personal, like I feel like a Barbie is a little bit and this is just my observation, like, of the design of it, is that Barbies are a little bit different because Barbies are like kind of meant to be you, right? So obviously it's kind of hard to like and again, like, we're talking about like demographics, right? It's like, are you really gonna, what are you gonna make every single fucking Barbie? You're gonna have, you know, Native American from this specific tribe Barbie. You're gonna have Vietnam Barbie. Like, what, like, how far are we gonna go? Right? Of people feeling like they're out of place. Because even if you were to make like an Asian Barbie, okay, well, where's she from? Right? Or is it just the skin color you care about? You see what I mean? Like, isn't it fucking weird? Like, it's fucking weird. Like, I don't get it. But I think the best way to do this is to just have like, for instance, thank you for the bits. Thank you so much. Thank you, Space Cowboy. And thank you for the sub, Cosmic Wind Spirit. Thank you.
power and privilege, and it can also impact the way children see and interact the world.
This is Vietnam Barbie the free napalm strike. Oh my god, dude. Yeah, man. It's like, you know, they have the Vietnam Barbie, and it's like the take your daughter to work day version, and she has like a freaking Viet Cong outfit on. Yeah.
With the world, where the creators are
That
being
go over
intentional.
well with
I think this is
them.
where they're really their mask starts to slip a little bit, because the term racial power is very, very interesting.
Just have like a samurai Barbie, you know, we'll just go all in, you know. Fuck it.
Because again, why are they trying to get people to see the world in terms of race if they're the same people who are complaining that one group is privileged over another? That the assumption in itself that one entire race of people is privileged over another because of their skin color is racist in itself. You're assuming that because their color just makes them walk through life easier, or their color of the skin makes them have a harder life just by default.
There's a lot of factors in
stereotyping,
life.
which is the thing they're supposed to be complaining about. But
The dumb thing about this is this is just life in general, right? Like, if you go in as a minority to any country, yeah, it's gonna be a little bit different for you. Duh. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, and often a lot of the times it's actually internal.
you can see they want to either reinforce or disrupt racial
It's a little bit of both, but you know,
biases. They don't want a colorblind.
it is what
world.
it is. You know,
They want to teach people to see things in terms of race, so that they can judge people in accordance to how they want them to be ranked.
Do you think there's anything valid about the teachings of this seminar?
I'd say the only thing that has a grain of truth is that some children might not necessarily make decisions based on race, but kids notice race because kids notice differences. I've been
Kids
around
notice
children that
patterns.
have asked me, "Oh, why are
People
you black?"
notice patterns.
It's not because they're being racist. It's because they're a child and they don't know what's happening in the world. They're just trying to learn things. But these people are making the assumption that children are just racist by default if they notice a difference in race, specifically the white children.
They're not hiding their point of view. In fact, you may say many of the talking points are featured on their own website, publicly. And we talk about people who hide things versus show them. Oftentimes, journalism is about showing people things they don't want made public. Do they want people to see this?
I don't think they do. Maybe on the surface, you'll see companies say like, we're promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. Whatever most people interpret those terms to mean, I think they just generally interpret them as good. But to actually show that you're telling families that their 6-year-old is as racist as they are, I don't think it's something they want public.
Did you grow up around mostly white kids or
Not My school might have been primarily white, but the people I hung out with, my best friend was Hispanic.
Did you say my breast friend? I seen that hentai.
Have been primarily white, but the people
It's a
I
good
hung
one.
out with, my best friend was Hispanic. We hung out with a kid who was from
He's a false neck.
Vietnam.
Thank you.
We were a mixed group of kids, and we didn't ever judge each other based on race.
There was one called Mother Knows Breast. I had never seen it though, but Remo told me about it.
Obviously, we noticed the differences between our families and our just cultures, but it was something to be celebrated, not something to judge and not something to condemn people over. Racism exists. I think we'd be fools to say that there is no racism in the world, but teaching children to judge others based upon race is not going to make a world with less racism. It's going to make a world with more of it. I think if people genuinely want to rid the world of racism, then they need to stop judging others based on their race and just get to know them as individuals.
Yep.
I think the best example of this is Daryl Davis. He's a black musician and artist, but he befriended and deconverted Ku Klux Klan members because he just got to know them and they got to know him as a person instead of just as a black person. And he's living proof that this is how you end racism.
Did anyone else at your company, you don't have to say their names, but did anyone else you know feel concerned?
Because a
as
lot
you
of
did-
the times people are actually, and it's not necessarily like hard racism as in like you hate everybody of a certain race. It's more like you're weary of it. And a lot of that is just from bad experiences, repeated bad experiences. And if you have like one person that you meet that kind of breaks that mold, then it helps you to understand like, oh, okay, so it's not everybody like that.
about this?
Not to my knowledge. At the end of the presentation, they have
But like when it's forced on you, that doesn't really help, right? Like if you have, for instance, like a case where, you know, I'm gonna use races from my world so people don't get fucking antsy or whatever. But say like you're constantly say like you go down the street and then a rabbit folk, you know, she fucking robs you. And then you go and then a week later you get robbed by another rabbit folk. You might start building a connection that they're bad, right? And the only way to really break that is to understand that it has nothing to do with the actual that the factor that you're looking for is not that they're rabbit folk, right? So it's like if you meet a rabbit folk that's a good person, and then you become friends with them, it eliminates that barrier. That's funny because in the lore in my lore and my lore in my world, it actually is rabbit folk.
like a Q&A. Most people just give
that is the stereotype. Okay, that's a stereotype. That's not me. Okay.
they clap and they say thank you for
I have
bringing this to my
friends who are
attention.
rabbit
I don't
folk.
think most people think too much about it.
Are you close with your parents?
Yes, very. I love both of my parents very much.
Do they know that you're doing this?
They do not, so they're gonna find out a bunch of things today.
And how do you think they're going to respond to this?
It's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be kind of heated.
I think you're missing the part where it happens repeatedly. It's probably an inherent part of agriculture, and therefore it would be more likely that they are bad. Yes. And see, so that's actually an incredible point. I'm gonna talk about that. So Hatter of Madness in chat says, yeah, I think you're missing the part where it happens repeatedly. It is probably an inherent part of the rabbit folk culture, and therefore it would be more likely that they are bad. But see, the connection there is culture, not the rabbit folk. Does that make sense? It's the specific culture that you have a problem with. It's not the actual rabbit folk. And this is like the problem with us kind of saying that all cultures are good, because it's not the case. There are clearly cultures that are superior to other cultures just ethically, right? So like when you create a connection, when you make it so people can't talk about cultures and bad things that certain cultures have and good things that certain cultures have, if you make that taboo to talk about, then what else do you do but link that and race, right? It like you need to be able to discuss these things, and that's how you get through. That's how you get over your problems, right? Is by discussing them and trying to find solutions for different problems, right? Japanese culture being the top culture, obviously. Well, I mean, there are good things about Japanese culture, but there's also a lot of bad things about it, I think. I think every culture has that. Every culture has pluses and minuses to it, I think. But again, like, how do you find out what's the pluses and what's the minuses if you can't talk about it?
But I hope that they will see this and they understand that I am serious and I do not want my future children or my cousins or my nieces or nephews to become indoctrinated into a racist ideology. And that is why I am here.
Going to be heated.
It probably will be heated.
Do you think they'll be proud of you, worried about you? What's going to be the reaction?
Probably a mix. I've always been told I need to find my voice, and I'm not an outspoken person generally.
How do you play Twitch or Terrace? I have not, no.
Usually just am kind of quiet and I just observe and think things.
People think culture is different from way of life, and it isn't. Some ways of living are better than others. Yeah, I think so, actually. I think that's true. And the thing is like, all you have to know, all you have to know, you can think of this yourself if you don't believe that a culture can be worse than another culture. All you have to do is remember that, like, how do you think people would feel about, how do people feel about slavery in America now? They think it was bad, right? So obviously, like, that's something that changed. So the culture became better, right?
But if this isn't finding my voice, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is the
Yeah,
most
and how do people feel about the Third Reich? Yeah,
outspoken thing
exactly.
someone could do. So how do you reconcile being not outspoken with doing this?
Surpass my weaknesses.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. So some people are going to say you're giving up your livelihood to do this. You're going to face a lot of criticism from people.
Gex says that cultures that allow underage marriage are definitely inferior. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I would consider to be there's several aspects of a culture I would consider to be inferior, right? Again, like, culture is like positives and negatives, right? Like, there are good aspects and bad aspects of every culture, and I mean, it's just obvious, right? And again, this is the problem with kind of censorship and people not being able to say what's on their, people not being able to say what's on their mind, people not being able to discuss these things in like a civil way, is you cannot, how do you find solutions for any of this? How do you take the best parts of different cultures and how do you study the best parts of different cultures to try to find out like how to have a better society? You can't do that if you suppress it. If you never take the time to think about these things and discuss it with people that, agree with you, people that disagree with you, and then the ideas never develop. So you're just stuck in like kind of the dark ages of information where you're not actually trying to fix any problems. You're just making like emotional, you're making just emotional cases at that point.
Who attacking you,
Yep.
as you said, racially. Are you nervous about that? Are you concerned about that?
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous or concerned. I don't know what's going to be the fallout of this.
If you glorify, the Fatal Heart says culture is people's practices and ways of thinking that develop and progress over time. There are consequences to the way that you live your life and the way that you teach your kids. If you glorify things like murder, there's going to be more murder. Yes, exactly. That is true. I think the problem, though, I think the problem is people tie culture and race too much. I think that's the problem. A lot of culture does come from an ethnic background. It does come from a sort of because okay, so culture is something that is passed down from person to person, or what's the word? Spread through culture. Those are like kind of the ways that it's either passed down through like family and blood, like through like oral tradition or whatever, or it's spread through like culture, things like music, things like videos, movies, games, etc. Right? Those are the ways that culture spreads, right? So because it also has the kind of passing down element of like your parents teaching you parts of their ethnic culture, I think what people do is they associate a certain aspect that is like how do I explain it? Like when a certain culture originates in a specific ethnicity, people conflate that when you criticize the culture, you're criticizing the immutable characteristics of people. Does that make sense? So like, for instance, if you have a person, let me just give you a really good example, because this is actually like a thing that this is actually an actual case historically. I had a friend, okay, who, my brother's friend was Japanese, but her family has been in America fucking forever. Like forever. Like I don't know when they got to America, but she's like not even like second or third generation. Like she's been, like her family's been in America like yeah, 5 ever, right? Like they were like, you know, in the camps and shit, you know, during World War II. They've been here forever. If you compare it to like a family that just moved to America, so if a family just moves to America from Japan, and then they have like one generation of kids, they still have a little bit of Japanese culture, obviously, because the parents moved from Japan and they know Japanese culture, and they moved to America, and then now they're kind of slowly like kind of getting into American culture, but then like a lot of their main culture is like still Japanese, right? And it just takes a little bit of time, right? Now, my brother's friend, when I went there, they were so white. I was like, what the fuck? Right? Like, I get there, and like just the way that they talk, and like the way the house was, and like it was just so white, right? And I was like, what the hell? And that's basically what I mean, is like culture is not really, I know I said white, but I mean American. Sorry. I misspoke. I mean American. They were so fucking American. You know what I mean? Like, yeehaw, fucking American, right? And it's like, that is like basically what I mean about how the ethnicity itself, the like biological ethnicity background is not tied to the culture, right? Does that make sense? White American culture and Asian, well, I mean, Asian American culture, if you're talking about like, again, like first or second generation, is a mix, right? Because people come here from you know, different, and this applies to like I mean I guarantee you right now, like if you're to talk about like black people in America probably don't really have very much from they're probably very different from Africans, right? Culturally is what I mean. Anyway, my point is that the race, like the actual ethnicity, the actual like blood race, is not necessarily tied to actually the culture. It's actually separated. But we have a hard time understanding that those two things are separated. That was my whole point with bringing up the Asian family being like super American, right? Used white and American equally, which is ridiculous. Yeah, I misspoke, which I said I did, which is why I corrected myself. And let's be real, a lot of Americans are white, so there you have it. America's base culture is based on European white Christians. That's the facts of history. You can hate me for it if you want.
A lot of detractors and critics, but I think this is a hill worth dying on. If the next generation of children is allowed to be indoctrinated to believing that racial segregation is a good thing, I don't think it will lead our country to anywhere good. I think we've come from that past. We know the bad things that happen when we segregate and separate people and judge them based on their race. And I don't think returning to that will bring anything good to this country. My family grew up, it was very important to them that
but that's actually another good point. Actually, in my misspeaking, it actually reveals another thing, is that even cultures that are based on kind of, you know, the European like, you know, European white Christian culture, even those cultures are different, right? The UK's culture is different than America, despite being like based in the same sort of branch. It's still different. And I think America's better.
Understood the history of America and the history of black people in America. And as a kid, I didn't really care about it, but I always thought Martin Luther King was just an amazing person. The I Have a Dream speech, though I don't know the entirety of it from by heart, but just the dream that people could come together and disregard race and just stand together as equals, I think that's an American value. I think that's progress in the truest sense, that we should not be
Sorry, and I
judging
keep pausing. I keep going back to the same. But again, that's the proof. That's the proof that the actual ethnic race is not actually tied to culture. It usually is. It usually leans that way, again, because of the branching of like where the culture actually like starts, and then as it goes throughout history, it stays within certain ethnicities until there's a mixing, and then it kind of like can change. And again, like culture can also shift just based on like what like popular culture, nerd culture, all of that stuff is also different, right? It's a completely different thing. And as we know, nerd culture, which is a type of culture, it is not really racial.
each other by the color of our skin, but rather by the content of our character and actions.
Are you right-wing?
I'm not actually.
How would you characterize?
Not traditionally right-wing. I've always considered myself center left. I don't want big government anymore because I see what they're doing. I grew up in a traditional Christian household, so I did grow up with those conservative values. But I wouldn't consider myself right-wing or conservative.
Are you a father?
I'm not. I do want to be one someday.
How old are you?
I'm 25.
What are you going to do next?
Well,
Screwed. What is he gonna do next? He just leaked a bunch of freaking company
I think
documents.
Hasbro will like to keep me.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. But after this, I'm just going to keep speaking out. I'll keep speaking my mind. If I can make one person just step away from this ideology and say, you know what, maybe that's not the way.
As this fresh says, culture does not equal race, but those things are often tied together. Throughout history and the rest of the world, America has accomplished something remarkable, but allowing multiracial and to be confused for a multicultural society to flourish. I love America, but I wouldn't impose our way of life or demographics onto other nations. Many nations want homogenous demographics, and that's their prerogative. You either have to want to change your culture or want to spread it. I think. Actually, that's not true because you want to gatekeep it as well. Sorry, a lot of the times I think about this stuff like just live. That's why sometimes I just stop talking because I'm thinking. Yeah, gatekeeping. Yeah. Gatekeeping would be the third option. So it's one of those. Either you want to change your culture because you don't like it, or you want to spread it, or you want to gatekeep it. And the reason why you gatekeep it is because you like it so much. The reason why you spread it is because you like it so much. I think if you are of the opinion that you like your culture, but then you don't want other people, you don't want to like impose on other people's culture, I don't think that makes sense. Other than gatekeeping, I don't think it makes logical sense. Because if you think your culture is superior, why wouldn't you want other people to have your culture? Or why wouldn't you want other people to, I guess, convert to your culture? Unless you're gatekeeping your own culture. Because you're afraid of them infecting your culture. Like we're doing that right now with our gaming culture, right? Gaming and anime. We're all learning that like, oh shit, we should have gatekept that shit. Oops.
It's not the path towards a better future, then I think it's worth it. I
don't know. I like to. Sorry, God, I keep pausing. I love talking about this stuff because it's how you understand like how things work, right? Like you work out these thoughts in your head, and then that's how you better understand yourself and what you believe in.
It's life after me for this.
What about packaging science?
I mean, I would like to continue it. I like my field. I think it's an important field, and it has impact on the world. It might be hard after this because I don't know how companies like to hire whistleblowers, but we'll see.
There might be an employer who might hire you, who's supportive of your mission.
I hope so. I hope there are more people.
Depends on if your culture is expansionist or seclusionist. Yeah, that's what I mean. Either it's gatekeeping. It's either gatekeeping or it's it's either gatekeeping or telling other people to they should convert to your culture. Zero Reader, thank you for the bits. Thank you.
Corporations who oppose this and will not just quietly let this slip into their company and be used as a vessel to push, well, discriminatory ideologies.
Are you doing this to be famous?
No, I don't want fame at all.
And what do you think about fame being thrust upon you next week?
Carl Benjamin said this. This
He was prepared. You have a fucking quote for that question? What?
Thrust upon you next week.
Carl Benjamin said this. This made me necessary. This isn't something I wanted to do. This is something I felt I had to do because I think I have some kind of duty, I guess. Maybe duty to the country, maybe duty to the people who came before, who fought for civil rights.
Sargon.
Maybe a duty to myself to stand up for principles. Not entirely sure. Maybe it's all of them. But this is something I felt I had to do. It wasn't something I wanted to do in the slightest.
People are going to say you're doing this for money. What's your response to them?
If I was doing this for money, I would have just kept my mouth shut and stayed at my job.
Do you get paid well?
Yeah, it's a decent job. Engineering of any kind is generally pretty lucrative. I wouldn't say I was making huge amounts of money, but I was comfortable. Definitely comfortable enough that I could have just kept quiet and just kept getting paid, and then I'd have to live with the fact that I'm letting this be pushed through. Actually, no, I'd have to live with I'm helping a company push this through, and I don't think I could live with that.
Are you afraid?
A little bit. Just because this is so unknown. I've never done anything like this before. I feel like I'm stepping directly into the fray, you could say. Because
Yeah, it's gonna be like really hard to
there
get
are
hired
people who
after
are
that.
speaking out against critical race
Actually-
theory,
actually
like
a
I said,
huge-
all
huge,
across the country and the West.
huge risk
and
to
they're facing
himself.
some pushback because this is it's a mainstream ideology now, and it's in a lot of our institutions, and it's
Thanks, Cowboy.
in
Thanks for
some
the bits.
places it's taboo to speak up against this. I don't know what's going to happen. I've always
Look into George and Alex Soros, as he is the one pushing a lot of the critical race theory and DI. Why though? Why? Why are they like this? This is what makes me like just go like full conspiracy theory. Like, what's the reason? Are they trying to destabilize us? They're trying to destabilize us, or like they're what do you call it? They just like the chaos. You know, the rich people's game. Like they have so much money that they don't know what to do with it. So what else to do with it than fuck around and mess with people?
been the kind of person that I've thought about where I wanted my life to go and kind of try to conduct myself accordingly. But
Shredtown says, I personally think it's simple as they believe in this stuff. Yeah. That is the simple explanation, yeah. That is the Occam's razor, right?
I didn't think I'd be sitting down whistleblowing for Hasbro ever.
You're an engineer, so there's a process, but there's no process here.
There's no process. This is uncharted territory.
The impact we can have as a company, if we think we can influence the social good, that's the role we think we ought to play as part of our company.
3, 4, 5 years old are inherently racist. Is that something Hasbro supports? The thought that children that young could make such a decision about race?
I don't think that's where we would, that's not what sort of a stance we would take.
Well, yeah, they do a lot of these kind of things. Well, not Project Veritas anymore. They actually kicked out. They actually kicked him out. Like this dude.
How?
There was drama. There was like a big drama. Like what's the word? They basically like rugged this guy. So this guy was the leader. They got together, they rugged him basically, and then he had to make his own company. A hostile takeover. Yeah, it was a hostile takeover. So he made like his own, which is actually, are these guys even still making stuff? Looks like they are. But they're not, it looks like they're not really focusing. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that guy has his own now called Keefe Media. He made like his own. And this is the one that we saw with the, well, what? The deep state is real. ESPN producer calls Stephen A. Smith an angry black man. Oh, man. IRS examiner blows a whistle on agency. He was Veritas. Yeah, he basically was, yeah. Their views are down. Wait, are they? Okay, just 22, 17. All right, the more recent ones, 22, 17, 23, 38. Okay, let's look at. I mean, some of these are pretty good. I don't know. Some of them are worse. This one hit really hard. This one did pretty well. I think it just depends on the video. Actually, it looks like It looks like people want more of like just the hard news, right? Like those ones are doing well.